Hello friends and welcome back to ReddX, your source for the freshest Reddit content anywhere on the internet. Today we're diving into some rSlash neckbeard stories because people seem to really like that weeaboo stuff and the incel stuff and the neckbeard stuff. So we are going to hit it once again because I've been suggested the Magicbeard saga. So this is 5 posts. It's probably going to be a long video, but I want to cram it all into one video because you guys deserve it. You know, I'm not uploading daily, so this is the one. You can watch it in 2 parts if you want. You could split it up however you like. I mean, I can't live your life for you. But anyways, let's go ahead and dive right into this cringe because I know it's going to be a beefy video. My first altercation with Magicbeard. New to posting, so forgive me if I don't know the etiquette. I probably didn't format this right. I met this neckbeard my first semester in college, but let's first introduce the characters. There's me. I'm a short, petite white girl with long red hair. I'm nerdy, but not in the classic sense. I don't obsess over the newest Marvel or DC movies, never managed to get into Magic or D&D, don't watch anime, and rarely play popular video games. I'm more the type that loves collecting old comic books or watching old live-action Japanese monster movies, and either playing 8-bit classics or indie games that nobody's ever heard of, with minor obsessions with Junji Ito, playing euchre, and painting Warhammer figurines for my brother-in-law, but I don't play. I guess you could call me a hipster of nerddom, which makes it hard for me to find friends. Enter the neckbeard in question, that I'm going to call Magicbeard because, well, he played magic. Without exception, at least 6 hours a day with anyone. Sometimes he would even resort to begging or bribing them to play. He didn't much look like a neckbeard. He was short, only an inch or so taller than me. He was stocky but not fat. He had a lot of hidden muscle, looked a little like Bluto from the old Popeye cartoons, only half Asian and without the facial hair. He dresses well and even smelled okay. He was your classic nerd, loved Marvel and DC, Magic, D&D, WoW, and anime, but he had an appreciation for the old stuff, and he knew how to play euchre, which is what first drew me to him. At first he seemed pretty normal, and we instantly became friends, and because I'm an awkward, antisocial, painfully shy person, he was my only friend. Then it began, and it all started with coffee. I knew he liked me as more than a friend at that point. He didn't hide it very well. But I was so aggressively antisocial that I knew if I lost him as a friend, I'd probably spend the rest of the term alone. Something that I was all too familiar with and not a fan of. I figured I could stave off his advances at least until summer break and then I could have a fresh start. He would buy me coffee at the school cafeteria every single morning. And no matter how much I protested, he wouldn't let me leave until I had accepted his gift, sometimes even making me late for my class in the process. Then it was lunch. Nothing fancy, but he insisted on buying me food because, "You look so thin, like you'll snap. I'll have to fatten you up a bit." Ew. And then the comic books. At first they were bargain bin stuff of my favorite titles, but then he tried to offer me an Amazing Spider-Man comic issue 129, the very first appearance of the Punisher, in great condition. My jaw dropped. Of course, I had told him how much I loved the Punisher. OP, is this real? Like, there's no way this is legit. Magicbeard, "Of course it is. Only the best for you." Smiling and looking at me sideways. OP, internally cringing. I can't accept this. I'm really hoping that you didn't buy this. Magicbeard with a face of disgust. "Why? Is there something wrong with buying a gift for a friend? I'm just trying to be nice." OP, dude, I've looked at the listings for this. This issue can run in the thousands. Also, how the f could you even afford this? Just a week ago you were asking to borrow 20 bucks. Magicbeard, "Don't worry about it. Look, just take it already. I don't even like the Punisher, so if you don't take it, I'm just gonna throw it away." I was taken aback by that. Not only was he trying to buy me, but he was willing to blow at least $1,000 in the process. I was hoping that his threat was a hollow one, but I wouldn't have put it past him. He was terrible at managing his money, constantly frivolously spending money and then somehow managing to break his new purchase within a month or so. And anytime he wanted something that he couldn't afford, he'd go beg to his parents for it. I later found out from a friend of his that he had begged his parents for the money, claiming that it was for car repairs. Oof. OP, dude, I'm not taking this. I can't accept a gift like this from a friend. What you do with it is entirely up to you, but I suggest, if you dislike the Punisher so much, that you should sell it again and hope that you can get your money back. Now if you'll excuse me, I have to go to class. I start to walk away when he grabs me by the upper arm. Magicbeard. Hey, wait! I turned back, briefly stunned, but then, after coming back to my senses, I looped my arm around his, ungrasping his hand, as I grabbed his forearm and pushed it away from me, silently thanking my parents for the 4 years of karate self-defense classes that they'd forced me to take. OP, dude, let go of me. As I started briskly walking away, practically fuming with anger, I hear him throw the comic book across the room, and it lands about 4 feet in front of me. I stop, pick it up, and look back at him. He's now got a shit-eating grin on his face. I look across the room and see a couple of people sitting at the table closest to me, so I go up to them. OP, excuse me. Here, take this free comic book. I don't want it, and neither does my friend over there, so it's yours now. I start walking away, and I'm almost to the entrance doors of the cafeteria when I hear what can only be described as a roar of neckbeardy anger. I look back and see him storming up to the table where the people were sitting. He grabs the comic book, takes it out of its plastic packaging, and while staring directly at me, tears it clean in half. I just turned around shaking my head and went off to class. What an absolute nutbag. Oh boy. Let's jump into the next one. Magicbeard 2, pissing off a neckbeard. Alright, so I had actually planned to tell a different story, but then I remembered this one. It's a bit more subdued than my last post, but I thought it was interesting enough to share, and I want to keep everything in chronological order. If you want to read my last story, here. We did, bruh. After the altercation in the cafeteria, I stopped talking to him, completely blacklisted. I did my best to avoid him, although that was extremely difficult to do, because he knew where most of my classes were and had nothing but free time. Unfortunately, the blacklist didn't last very long, and after multiple pleas to give him a second chance, I gave in and started talking to him again, but only after he promised that he would never buy shit for me again. To his credit, he never broke that promise. However, he did continue to do and say creepy and misogynistic things until they culminated into this gem that I'm sharing with you today. So, list of characters. OP, hipster nerd, overall pretty antisocial and way too forgiving. Magicbeard, our neckbeard in question, and a real piece of shit human. Blondie, Magicbeard's friend. Didn't know him super well at the time, but he's pretty chill, and like me, overly forgiving. Thing to note about him, he's a pretty big guy, probably a bit under 6 foot and slightly more muscular than average. To someone pathetically tiny like me, he's pretty intimidating. So it was a relatively warm fall day, and none of us had class for a while, so we had decided just to sit outside on the grass to eat lunch. Things were going pretty alright for a while. We were just shooting the shit, talking about our classes, music, TV shows, you know, normal stuff. I had finished eating and I was scrolling through Instagram when I thought to take a picture of all of us to post, so me, not thinking anything of it, turned around and pointed my camera to everyone and said, "Say cheese," and took the photo. I turned back around and was about to look at the picture I'd just taken when Magicbeard took my phone out of my hand. OP, dude, what the f***? Give my phone back. Magicbeard, how many f***ing times have I told you I don't like my photo being taken? I can still picture his face in that moment. He didn't just look angry, he looked absolutely livid, like I'd killed his cat or something. OP, well, I don't remember a single time you've told me that, but alright. Just give me back my phone and I'll delete it, okay? Magicbeard, no, I don't trust you. I'm gonna delete it myself. OP, come on dude, I didn't even know. I'll delete it, I swear. Now apparently at some point during this whole thing, he had finished deleting the photo because as I was finished saying that, I looked down at my phone in his hand, and I swear to fucking God he was swiping through my pictures. In that moment, my stomach churned. There were definitely some not safe for work pics in there, and I had no idea how buried they were. So, just as anyone would, I started to panic. OP, dude, what the fuck are you doing? Give me back my fucking phone. As I'm saying this, I'm lunging for my phone, but even as he's trying to keep my phone away from me, he's still swiping through my pics. Then, like a saint, in steps Blondie. He pushed me aside and grabbed Magicbeard's arm, and said something along the lines of, "Dude, you're being a dick." Magicbeard didn't take kindly to that, so he tried to throw my phone to the ground, which didn't work out so well because Blondie was still holding his arm in place. He pulled his arm free and started to storm off back into the college, but before he got to the closest set of doors, he screamed back at me, "Magicbeard, whatever! That was a bitch move! You should have known better!" To this day, I have no idea what he was looking for, but I can guess, and I have no idea what he saw. If he did see anything, he wasn't dumb enough to tell me about it. It makes me wonder if he was even upset about me taking the picture, or if he just saw an opportunity to creep. I absolutely guarantee that this was just an opportunity for that guy to creep. I also basically guarantee that he didn't see anything, or else he would have paraded that information around. But yeah, again, throwing the phone on the ground, this guy just has like a total disregard for others and their property and money because he ripped up a $1,000 comic book in the first story. So this is turning out to be an absolute train wreck. I can't wait to see what happens next. Magicbeard 3. I finally snap. Note, I tried reconstructing the story as best I could, but some of the story has been lost to time and alcohol. Part 1, Part 2. Alright, so if you thought I made questionable decisions in my last 2 posts, then please take a moment to compose yourself, because this story is my worst yet. List of characters. OP, your lovely hipster author, with a love of the nerdy persuasion. Magicbeard, our neckbeard in question. Bear, an absolutely fantastic guy. He loves BDSM, but he's not creepy about it. Tall, very heavy, and gives the best hugs. Thus the nickname. Blondie. After part 2, Blondie and me grew a lot closer as friends, and he always stood up for me if Magicbeard was getting to be a little too much. After the phone debacle, Magicbeard and I grew to be tentative friends again. We no longer hung out alone anymore, but if Blondie was there, he actually seemed to behave himself pretty well. I guess he got intimidated enough to stand down. My story starts when I told Blondie about this alternative bar/club that I liked in town. Picture the billiard room of a fancy vampire estate, add a dance floor and some strobe lights, and you have this place. It was more like your classic bar downstairs, with a dance floor and DJ upstairs, so it wasn't actually uncommon for the regulars to just come in for conversation and a stiff drink. It's a weird vibe, but the people there are super friendly, even if they're a little weird, and they have some really unique drinks. Needless to say, Blondie was intrigued, and we planned to take a trip there that coming Saturday. Saturday comes, and I'm super hyped. The outfit I picked for the club was way too form-fitting for how the night would inevitably end up, but for a club, they were appropriate. I sat outside waiting for Blondie to pull up, because I didn't have a license yet, and when I saw the headlights pull up, I raced to the car excitedly, until I stopped dead in my tracks. There in the back seat was the one and only Magicbeard. Apparently Blondie told him about the night. Magicbeard had invited himself, and Blondie, being as nice as he is, couldn't say no. I thought to myself, well, he's been okay so far. Maybe he realized how terrible he was being. Might as well try to enjoy the night. So I hop in the passenger side, and immediately he starts. Magicbeard, "You look really, really nice. Is that skirt latex or vinyl?" OP, it's vinyl. Latex is really expensive. Magicbeard, "If I got you something latex, would you wear it for me?" OP, my saving grace Blondie abruptly intrudes. Blondie, "Hey Navigator, you gonna tell me how to get to this place or what?" Aside from me giving directions, the ride stays stiflingly quiet the whole way there. Once inside, I start showing both of them around and introducing them to people. I grab myself a drink. The new guy at the front never ended up IDing me. I guess he assumed because I sounded like a regular I must be legal. Safe bet if you knew the crowd. Then introduced them to Bear. Now, without fail, Bear brings a flog with him every time he goes to this club. The reason for which, I don't know. My guess is because it's a good conversation starter? Well, at least it was in this instance. Magicbeard immediately starts going on about BDSM and how badly he wants a submissive, and not subtly mentioning that he was a virgin. I started getting extremely uncomfortable, not really by what he's saying. It's not my business to judge somebody for what they're into, but the way he was saying it made my skin crawl. So I decided to take Blondie aside and leave Magicbeard and Bear to their conversation. Blondie and I got into a pretty good conversation with another person, and I was starting to get a little bit tipsy, so when Magicbeard apparated behind me, I didn't even notice. That is, until I felt a sharp pain on my ass. OP? Jesus fucking Christ, what the hell was that? Magicbeard.
Did you like it?
There Magicbeard stood, with Bear's flog in his hands, and a shit-eating grin plastered on his face. OP? No, dude, I did not. You know pain without consent is just fucking assault, right? What the hell were you thinking? Magicbeard.
Cough. You don't even live the BDSM lifestyle like I do. Any submissive of mine would gladly take anything I do to them.
OP? Yeah, well, I'm not your fucking submissive now, am I? Besides, what the fuck would you know about anything like that either? You're just some pathetic virgin with absolutely no understanding of how insanely creepy you are. I was starting to create a scene, but I didn't care. Typically, I'm an extreme pacifist, but with the combination of alcohol and months of negging, misogyny, creepy advances, and 2 major blow-ups I'd experienced at this point, I just snapped. Magicbeard.
You whore!
OP. Oh yeah, just call me a whore because you can't think of anything better to say. I mean, seriously, have you ever wondered why you're 21 and still a fucking virgin? It's because you're a fucking dick. Magicbeard.
Bullshit! After all I've done for you, you call me a dick?
The argument devolved after that into a slurry of name-calling until I was pried away from him by Blondie and sat in a corner to decompress. The night was officially ruined, but unfortunately it wasn't over yet. But I'm gonna leave off here. This post either would have been way too long, or I'd have to exclude major details if I put it all in one post, so I'm gonna put the rest of it in a separate post. Later, lovelies. I wonder how Magicbeard ended up getting that flog. He just asked him, like, hey dude, can I borrow that for a minute? It's just so extremely pathetic that this guy's like out looking for a submissive when he doesn't even know what to do at all with a woman. Like where to even start. You can't be a dom in the bedroom and a beta in real life. That just isn't how it works. This guy's got such massive insecurities that when the submissive tries to buck on him, he's probably not going to know how to handle it. He'll be like, excuse me, can I buy you something? And then it becomes like a flip reverse financial domination situation. Either that or the dude is going to attempt to punish her in some way that's going to end up hurting her, which that's not fun for anybody, you know? At the end of the day, BDSM is all about everybody having a good time, you know? It might be a kinky lifestyle, whatever you think about it, but people do it because it makes them happy. So while this guy thinks that it would make him happy, I don't think he's ready for it. Oh, so let's see what happens in part number 4. Magicbeard Part 4, The Narrow Escape. Wow, that's a great title. Alright, it's my birthday. I'm drunk and I've decided to recount one of my worst memories to a bunch of strangers for Reddit karma. If you don't have a drink in your hand right now, you'll probably need one for this story. At least, I know I do. I got a coffee. Should I make it an Irish coffee? Do you have a drink? Great! Now let's get this shit started. If you haven't read part 3, you're going to want to, in order to understand what's going on in this story. Also, if you haven't read the other 2 parts of this saga and want to, here they are. Also, pretty much every quote in this story is paraphrased. I almost guarantee nothing I said was fully coherent, but I'm writing it this way for story's sake. Characters: OP, getting drunker by the second, both now and in this story. Magicbeard, the asshole who doesn't understand consent. Something important to note, he was completely sober that night. He was under 21 at the time, and he was carded at the door, unlike me. Blondie, the mediator of the group. Bear, the biggest sweetheart I know. Alright, where did I leave off? Ah, yes. So after spending some time bitching to Blondie, I decided to grab a drink. And then another one. And then another one. At this point, I really just wanted to forget the night entirely. I didn't worry too much about being drunk around Magicbeard because I fully intended to have her around Blondie, Bear, or the bartenders all night. Not the best plan, but I figured he couldn't do anything too abhorrent with someone around. Besides, he had already done the worst possible thing I could think of, and it didn't get him what he wanted. I gravely underestimated his creep levels. That being said, I got really f***ed up, to the point where some moments of that night are lost to me forever. However, the moments where I was lucid make me aggressively uncomfortable to this day. Well, the night took a turn for the worst when Blondie gets a call that his brother is in the hospital getting his stomach pump. I told him that he could go and that I would just find Bear and stay with him for the rest of the night. Of course, Blondie wasn't cool with me being left unattended for any amount of time, so he escorted me to the closest staff member, one of the bartenders, and asked if they could take me to Bear before running off. The rest of that time in the club is a blur, but in short, the bartender takes me to Bear. Both Bear and the bartender agree that I am way too drunk and should go home. Then Magicbeard walks up. Bear and Magicbeard talk for a while. It should be noted that Bear was not there when the flog incident happened, so he had no idea what Magicbeard had done or what he was really like. Then, before I know it, I'm in front of my house, puking on my shoes. After a prolonged time of me being passed out or asleep, but most likely both, I woke up on the couch in my living room with a blanket over me and my shoes off and Magicbeard just, staring at me. Taken aback, all I could blurt out was, "What the fuck?" To which Magicbeard said something like, "You look really pretty sleeping." And all I could say in response was, "What the hell are you doing here?" When he starts to get closer, trying to push the hair out of my face, and says, "Well, who else was gonna take care of you? But you know, all this care and attention isn't free." I pushed him away from me and managed to say, "Off. I don't want your attention." Then I rolled over and pulled the blanket over my head. I could hear him give an indignant huff and start to pace back and forth. I had this deep sinking feeling in the pit of my stomach. He'd been unpleasant to deal with before, but this felt different, more serious, more real. Not knowing what to do, I lay there in fear and tried to keep my eyes open for as long as I possibly could, but no matter how hard I tried, my eyes would not stay open. Next time I woke up, it's pure horror. This fuck had pulled up my shirt and bra and was crouched next to me staring at my breasts and masturbating. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I completely freaked out and froze. After desperately trying to think of a way to get out of the situation without getting him angry, I decided that since he hadn't noticed that I'd woken up yet, I'd pretend that I was still asleep and once again roll over and pull the blanket over me, like it worked so well last time. This time, however, instead of leaving me alone, he put his hand between my thighs. As his hand moved further and further up my legs, the feeling of panic and dread filled me. I felt like I'd looked Medusa eye to eye, and I was now a statue frozen by fear. In that instant, most likely due to the alcohol, but also probably encouraged by the stomach-churning dread that I was feeling, I got a sudden and immediate urge to vomit. I felt myself unfreeze as reflex took over, and I bolted as quickly as possible to the closest bathroom, in that moment feeling pretty indebted to the alcohol. After evacuating whatever was left in my stomach, hunched over the toilet bowl, I started to rack my brain trying to think of a way to get out of this situation. I was drunk and home alone with someone so sick of getting rejected that he was now totally comfortable with rape. Things were not looking good for me. I decided the best thing I could do was leave the house and try and find a safe place to bunker down in. I knew a fair amount of the neighbors, and there was a 24-hour gas station a couple blocks away. I didn't know how he'd react if he knew that I was just sober enough to remember what he'd done to me, but I knew he wouldn't want me leaving the house. No matter how quiet I tried to be, the house, being as old as it was, wouldn't cooperate, the wood floor creaking under every step. I could hear him shuffling around looking for me, so I decided to bolt it out of there as fast as I could. I made it outside with the screen door slamming behind me, immediately giving away that I'd left the house. So I ran as fast as my legs would carry me towards the gas station. He was only about 30 feet behind me trying to catch up and screaming things like, "Hey, wait!" and "I could explain!" But I just kept running in a roundabout way trying to lose him. Thankfully, even though I was drunk and barefoot, I was pumped full of adrenaline and I knew the neighborhood like the back of my hand. So after about a block and a half of backtracking and running through people's backyards, I'd lost him. Once I didn't hear him behind me anymore, I turned and made my way over to the gas station. Once there, I told the attendant what happened and what Magicbeard looked like, and then immediately locked myself in the bathroom, huddled in a corner, and cried until daylight broke. P.S. For those who want to know, no, I never pressed charges. And I have my reasoning behind it. I don't regret the decision either. Also, please be respectful because this was a difficult story to tell. Edit. I want to thank everyone who reached out with concern and compassion from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for making Reddit a sanctuary for me. I can't tell you how much it means to me. Jesus Christ, dude, this got dark in a hurry. It started out with like funny haha, he ripped up a $1,000 comic book, but even from that incident, we could glean how he takes being rejected, and, you know, probably we should take things like that more seriously. Like, my god, I'm so sorry that happened to you, OP. It's like you've now left this woman with a mental scar simply because you couldn't figure out how to talk to a woman, or just go on the internet and pay a lady to act like she's interested so you can get your stupid little rocks off, you know what I mean? Absolutely pathetic. I hate this guy with every fiber of my being. If I saw him in the street, I would punch him to death. But OP didn't report it. That means he essentially got away with it. So I wonder how many of these, like, secretive, alleged, potential rapists are, like, walking around. How many have I interacted with this month? Disgusting scumbags, dude. A hooker's not even that much. In the days of Cash App and like freelance prostitution, you can do better than this. Pony up $100, dude. Just never this, okay? I'm not a huge proponent of prostitution or even pornography personally, but if it keeps people from doing this, then you do what you gotta do, man. Never this. Never this. We got one more part. Let's hope that Magicbeard dies in the end. Let's jump into it. Magicbeard, the finale. Retribution. Last you saw me, Magicbeard did something pretty shitty. That's putting it lightly, OP. Anyone who wanted revenge, or for karma to bite him in the ass, might be slightly satisfied with this finale. Oh good. You may still feel he deserved worse, but it's something. I hope he died, for real. All the other parts here, characters, OP, your stereotypical shy anime protagonist with pink hair. Magicbeard, a beard that devolved rapidly from expected creepy behavior to an attempted rapist and stalker. Bro, that wasn't attempted rape, I hate to tell you. Blondie, my best friend and loyal to the bitter end. Bear, a really genuine friend. When I told him about the night in the bar, he got so angry he punched a hole through a plaster wall, and then apologized to me profusely. I think he still feels guilty about it to this day. We've also got Sis. Her and I have been closer than sisters for as long as I can remember. She's been my therapist, my best friend, my bodyguard, and my mother. She's also fiercely protective of me. She the real MVP. Ninetails is Sis's fiancé, named such by the tattoo that he has on his chest. It's basically a spirit animal. He's tough, like really tough. Spent years in a factory lifting up 200 to 300 pound frames, so he's not the kind of person you want to fuck with. Magicbeard didn't leave me alone after the night in the bar. He'd beg and plead with me on Facebook to forgive him, but I was done. He'd crossed a line. I stopped going to classes, I moved in with my sister, I blocked him on all social media, but despite all that, unbeknownst to me, he had taken to writing handwritten letters and sending them to the only address he knew, my house in Part 4. He would send up 4 or 5 a week over the course of about 2.5 months. My parents kept them away from me. They said they kept them to use as evidence if I ever wanted to press charges, but that I had gone through enough, and me reading it would only validate his ramblings. I only knew of their existence after the fact. To him, my lack of response meant I either wasn't getting the letters, or I didn't want to contribute to his sick, one-sided conversations. He apparently couldn't tolerate that. Yeah, we've seen how he deals with rejection. He needed me to talk to him, in person. So the second he saw the opportunity, he took it. He must have been stalking my family's social media, and seen that my family was planning a big celebration for my birthday, made even bigger by doubling it as a family reunion. Family from Belgium were coming over in the same time frame, so it just made sense. We planned to have everyone gather at my parents' house, the house in Part 4, because it had the biggest backyard. The day was going great. I got to catch up with loads of my family that I never got to see, and introduce them to all my friends. I was in the middle of introducing my cousins to Bear and Blondie when I saw out of the corner of my eye a figure that I recognized. Darting my eyes to the figure, sure enough, standing there peering around the corner of the house. It was unmistakable. It was him. He quickly shrunk away out of view. a couple seconds later, he stepped back out. I saw him take a deep breath, and he started walking straight towards me, and I could see something in his hand. Blondie must have noticed because he started right towards Magicbeard. Blondie started to push Magicbeard back, pointing and saying something to him. I couldn't hear it, but he looked absolutely livid. My sister noticed this and came running to me. Sis, is that him? OP, yeah. Sis. Okay, just stay back here. She then looked to Bear. Sis, stay here. Make sure he doesn't come anywhere near her. Bear, you got it. Then he turned to me. Bear, don't worry, I got you. I'll gut him like a fish before he ever has a chance to lay a finger on you. Over all the commotion, I could hear Magicbeard desperately yelling to me. Magicbeard,
Did you read any of the letters I sent you? Please read this.
I could see what was in his hand more clearly now. It was an envelope with scribbles and drawings all over it. Magicbeard,
Please, just talk to me. I need you to talk to me.
I could see Ninetails starting to walk towards Magicbeard. The way he was walking looked like he was ready to fight, but in that moment, somehow, Magicbeard had broken free from Blondie and was running right for me. The very next second, Ninetails had tackled him not but a couple feet from me. They landed hard. So hard, in fact, I thought I heard something crack. It sounded like someone snapping a particularly sturdy stick on their knee. It turned out Magicbeard had broken a rib. Magicbeard tried to get up, but before he could, Ninetails climbed on top of him and punched him clean in the jaw. After catching his breath, he said, Ninetails, you come near this house, or my sister, ever again, and I will personally make it my mission to make you disappear. Before he could do any more damage, the cops showed up and dragged Magicbeard away. After some time of things calming down, there was talk of just shutting the party down and having everyone go home, but I told everyone that I didn't want that. There was no way that one asshole was going to ruin my birthday. I also couldn't stand the idea of being alone just then. So the party went on, and in some time we even managed to laugh at the absurdity of the situation. After a couple days, I told my parents that I wanted to see the letters he'd sent me. There were 43 in total, some only a few sentences, some up to 5 pages, and they ranged the full spectrum of human emotion: rage, regret, fear, sadness, joy, pity, boredom. Some made me cringe. He'd recount his days of bribing people to play Magic with him, saying,
I have to bribe them because they're so scared of my decks. They just know they're gonna get their asses handed to them.
And then making excuses for why he'd lose games.
It's whatever. I wasn't even paying attention. Or, I handed him that game. My rats could have kicked his ass if I wanted them to.
Some terrified me. Letters where he was so angry the only legible words were whore, bitch, slut, cunt. Written and then written over so aggressively that he made holes in the paper. I'd read some and be furious. One letter stood out in particular where he rambled on about the abusive relationship I'd had in high school, something I'd mentioned to him and demanded that he not talk about unless I brought it up first, and how he would never treat me like that
if I would just give him a chance.
Some yet made me pity him. He talked about how he no longer had any friends. Blondie was his only friend, and when he left, Magicbeard felt lonelier than ever. He'd talk about how if he weren't so scared to die, he'd probably have killed himself by now. I could even see where the tears had landed on the paper, smearing the ink. I was in exactly that place once. I know how he felt, so I couldn't help but feel sorry for him. I never did find out what the last letter said. In the confrontation, Magicbeard dropped it, and it just disappeared. Magicbeard ended up with a broken rib and jaw. He was charged with trespassing, spent a short time in jail, and had to pay a fine plus court costs. Thankfully, he hasn't tried to contact me or my family since. It's been a long enough period of time now that I finally feel safe. I spent a long time trying to figure out how I ought to feel about him, but as time passed and other emotions dwindled away, the only one that remains now is pity. I feel sorry for him. The life I saw him leading was filled with negativity and despair. Whether it was self-inflicted or not, I can't help but empathize with the pain that he must have felt. I can only hope that he's learned from it, and is now making a better life for himself and everyone around him. I'll be honest with you and say that OP is probably a much bigger person than I am. I mean, I didn't really even participate in the story, but I'm still filled with the kind of vitriol that makes me want to see him dead. She called it in the first paragraph. She's like, people probably, you know, might not be completely satisfied, think that he deserves more. I definitely think that he deserved more. Obviously, he left a scar on this woman's mind to the point that she still remembers it years later, you know. And while it's nice to pity him and stuff like that, really, he needs his ass kicked. Hopefully he got his ass kicked a whole bunch in jail. And I still think that whole situation that happened at OP's house after the night at the bar should have come out at the court date. And then he'd spend even more time in jail. Honestly, don't know how you could find it in yourself to turn the other cheek on someone like this. That's why I say OP's a bigger person than me. I just couldn't do it. But then again, I'm good at holding on to things, you know. I don't think I've turned the other cheek even once in my life. Especially about something that, you know, affects me personally or somebody that I love. What an absolute scumbag. Everything this guy is horrible. And I'm glad that you can feel pity for him, but I think he deserves it. You know, you reap what you sow. So, fuck him. That's how I feel. If he got hit by a bus tomorrow, I wouldn't feel shit. And that's just real talk. See, that's why I can't do these neckbeard stories all the time, because it gets a bit too in-depth, you know what I mean? You really get to see what a scumbag these people are, like, even in their personal life, you know? Brushing past with entitled parents is like, maybe they're having a bad day. This guy is just through and through a bag of trash, and he deserves a lot worse than what happened. You're far too forgiving, OP, but I do thank you for sharing. Pretty brave to stand up and be like, this is what happened, it fucking scarred me, and I'm gonna share it with you. So thank you for giving us a glimpse, you know. It really makes me think about some stuff, and I hope we all learn something today. Maybe. Don't be a disgusting fucking scuzzy neckbeard. Although I'm sure most of us already knew that. But anyways, friends, I hope that you like, comment, and or subscribe. If you did enjoy the video, check out the links in the description to Twitter, Discord, and Patreon. Yes, my lovely, lovely patrons. I'd like to shout out each one of them. We've got Just Austin, Robert Waits, Nathan, Crimson Albedo, Lady Nix, Radam Cisco, Damon Darkstar, and the OGist, Nico the Legend. I appreciate you guys so very much for helping me to live the dream, and everybody else, I appreciate you equally as much for watching this far. And if you did both, well, shit, you just knocked my socks off. You're the real MVP. But anyways, friends, leave some video suggestions and things in the comments. I will get to them eventually. I'm going to be cruising weeaboo tales this weekend, so that should be fun. See if I can dig up something for you, and I hope that you join me for it. So definitely keep yourselves safe out there. Do not forget to wash your hands, and always remember that you are loved, you are valued, and you definitely deserve it. Thank you again, guys. I will see you in the next one, and until then, bye-bye.